Good evening. Thank you. A while back in the fiscal year 15 budget process, we had a library exterior restoration project budgeted for $37,000. We had an estimate from a local contractor on that. As we got time to initiate that, he backed out and was only willing to do City Hall and not the library. It was a kind of a combined contract, and so we needed to go out and get some new bids on that. And through that process, various contractors gave us differing opinions, as well as noticed a lot more work that needed to be done besides what we had originally thought needed to be done. And it got to a point where we thought we needed to get this spec'd out by a professional, so we knew exactly what it was that needed to be done over there, so we could plan accordingly and get the work done that's necessary. Through that, the City Hall project is still scheduled, and that's just under $10,000. The estimates that came in by their contractors with the new bid went upwards of $114,000. So, I mean, that's a considerable jump from the original 37. So, you can see why we had an issue there. And so, with that, we're proposing to have a consultant go and give us a full spectrum of what needs to happen over there, and that comes in at $13,530.68. And so, in a nutshell, that's where we're at. I do have Jay if he has some technical questions I can't answer, but we really did feel that we can't do this we can't figure this out without some help on this one. It's just bigger than our own expertise, and that's what we're requesting tonight is the authorization to contract with Castellicom.
Okay. Walter.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for Gary, and I believe I asked this one at committee last Monday. Well, let me hold that thought. Let me ask Dwight one, and then I'll ask Gary the second one. Dwight, last week we inquired as to whether or not anyone knew why the quoting contractor at $37,000 had decided not to do it. Do y'all have any better information a week later?
I can tell you that it had nothing really to do with the city. It was personal on his side and what he thought he could handle under the circumstances he was under with his business.
So your belief is that the price we were quoted, had other things not occurred, he would have done the work for that number?
Oh, yes. The problem is we would have still had these other issues there that he hadn't identified.
Okay.
So, and that's kind of the scary part of this. In hindsight, we probably should have had it scoped out to begin with. It seemed like a simple enough project to begin with. City Hall's makeup is a little different than the library. But I've worked with sandstone before in the last job I had, and it can get complicated very quickly, and as well as the supporting or the structure that's above it. So, yeah, we probably should have scoped it sooner, but at the time it just seemed simple enough, and then it went from there.
Okay.
So we would have likely ended up where we're at now, just not the sandstone. It would have been in addition to that. So.
Okay. If I may?
Sure, go ahead.
Gary?
Yes, sir.
If we go ahead and approve this tonight, and the scope of work creates a $100,000 project, can we pay for it, or does it go on the shelf until we figure out where to find the money? I mean, what position does this study put us in, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, of course, depending upon the magnitude, we'll determine if we budget it in future years or whether we can move funding around to try and do it so no further damage accrues to the library. It really, as I indicated last week, Walter, it's the same answer, and that is depends on the magnitude of it. I mean, if this thing gets scoped out, it's in the same ballpark as the original quote, we might be able to swing it. if it's much more than that, I would suspect we'll be addressing it in the FY 2017 budget.
And a final question, if I may.
Go ahead, Walter.
The 13.5 for the consultant that's before us tonight, is that going to effectively come out of the 37,000 we had available to do the work before we lost the contractor?
Yeah, 5,000 of it will. Remember, we reallocated, council reappropriated or reallocated the bulk of that funding for the emergency repairs to the swimming pool roof project. So we kept $5,000 in there, I guess, hopefully thinking that, or wishfully thinking, that an architect's services for the library would be more akin to $5,000 than it was the 13.5. Obviously, we undershot that a little bit, but we were able to find $4,800 on a flooring project in another building that we were able to delay, and the balance of about $3,800 can be identified out of general fund capital projects buildings. So we can piece funding together for it.
For the consultant?
For the consultant, not necessarily for the project.
Thank you.
Wayne?
Excuse me for having missed the meeting. However, perhaps this question was asked and perhaps not. Why are we talking about hiring a consultant, an architect, to scope the building and do an assessment on the condition of the building and what needs to be done? My thoughts are that possibly if it was in the private sector that this would not be a step that would be taken. You would get a hold of a contractor that's qualified to do this type of finishing work and repair work and get a contract price from them as far as what needs to be done. So I'm having a difficult time with $13,530 just to ask an architect to tell us what's wrong with the building.
Dwight, you want to?
Well, as I indicated earlier, that was the approach we took. I mean, we had the companies come over and do their assessments, and they were all different. They all had different opinions, and so, I mean, which one do you do? And then come back and have to redo it again because they missed something. I mean, we were very comfortable with the original contractor, and based on everybody else that's been over there, I mean, they missed all kinds of stuff. And to their defense, we didn't ask them to go beyond that either. But, you know, when you're building a foundation and there's a house on it or going to be a house on it, you got to look at the whole thing. And so that's what we have over there is you have other things that are interconnected and you need to fix them.
If I may.
Gary?
Additionally, and I apologize, there was an attachment that didn't make it it was passed out last week and not this week. There is a letter from Costella Com that lays out the scope of the work, which includes an existing condition assessment, measured as-built drawings, materials investigation, project manual, drawings, cost model, business services, construction admin services, and warranty services. So, and again, as Dwight indicated, and I think he told the group last Monday, that this sort of sandstone construction, although it isn't all that common out here, is very common in the Midwest. It's technical. When you have weathered sandstone, it takes special epoxies and elements to reface those. Costella Com has experience on this type of masonry at the University of Idaho. They've done a bunch of projects up there with older buildings. So when the original contractor, who's very experienced in this, very experienced mason with this sort of thing, pulled out, and Jay started getting quotes from other contractors, and they were all over the board, it was pretty clear that there wasn't a real understanding, or at least there was a huge disparity of expertise in the masons in the area.
Okay.
Walter?
Gary, following up on that, if the mason who gave us the quote had a lot of experience with sandstone, why did he miss so much that needed to be done?
I can't say, Walter. Maybe he was going to do a lot of the job for nothing.
Didn't you mention that there was a lot of things you didn't point out, or you guys didn't have him go on or something?
Right, yeah,
Further
he
in
was
depth,
more
or-
focused on just the sandstone, where some of this is beyond the sandstone issues that basically are connected but not part of the same. But we would have ended up with the same problem just later, we just would have. And I can't explain how that happened. I just can't explain that. It just is.
This is more in line of a comment than a question, but I'm not going to be surprised if we get a pretty good six-figure number to repair the library when we hire a consultant to tell us what really needs to be done to it.
Art?
Alternatively, we don't know what it is that we don't know, and at least if we have the architect go forth and do the assessment, we can at least rank the degree of severity and what needs to be addressed in what order, if it doesn't necessarily have to happen all at once. So I think we have to get the information that we're going to need to manage this project at the outset, rather than trying to piecemeal it blindly through time.
Jim's got a question.
I wanted to ask Dwight if he felt that if we spend $13,000 on assessing the situation, you feel that that's money well spent in order to prevent a problem. If we don't spend this and we take a chance on getting it fixed and then we find something, is it going to be worth way more than $13,000 to fix that at some point in the future, in your opinion?
I wouldn't bet my wages on just somebody coming down there without this. To say there's not going to be another problem if we don't. We wouldn't have brought this to you if we hadn't thought that.
And as in addition to that, there is a warranty thing on this, so that if his assessment of that turns out to be in error, somehow that's insured. If we're paying these guys to miss something, they're backing up their work, that we've found everything that needs to be done here, and there's not going to be another $50,000 that we don't know about.
I would leave that to the attorneys to answer.
John had did you have something, John?
Well, the only thing I have, Bill, is it appears to me, having read this and gone through the other meeting, that the original contractor that we didn't go through a bidding process said, I can do this for this amount of money. And then he said, I can't do it for whatever reason. And the other people that were brought in said, well, I can do this for $114,000. And so we've got this for 37, we've got this for 114. And up here, we really don't know what either one of these thises are, as far as, is this enough to get the job done? And if we hire a consultant, and as you well know, I'm not really in favor of hiring a lot of consultants, but in this particular case, I would have no idea, looking at the building, what needed to be done, what didn't need to be done. And I think that this architect should be able to tell us what they think should be done, and then not only that, but they should be able to tell us what we can postpone to a later date if we need to. If these, as Walter said, if they come in at six-figure amounts, we may be able to say, okay, what can be taken off this bid that will be more to our financial liking. So,
Gary, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, Walter was dying to say this, but the warranty that Castella-Com is talking about isn't for their consulting work. It is to give advice and guide the city on setting up the warranty for the work that the contractor ultimately does.
Walter had was that what you wanted to say?
I was going to ask Gary if he wanted to tell it, or I wanted to.
I guess one of the questions I'd have is the library district, maybe for Gary or Dwight, or would they be able to toss in anything towards the consulting part? Or are they just in charge of the books?
Yeah, we have our agreement with them is we take care of the major repair projects on the building. We've replaced HVAC, we've worked on the elevator, we've done the roof or worked on it. They did participate in the front entrance project, but we had a significant amount of money in that as well. So I wouldn't imagine that they would be throwing any money in this. The building essentially is our responsibility.
Wayne?
And we still own it.
Right, right.
question's probably more for Gary, I think, if he can even answer it, and it's what you just now said. Why does the city own that building?
Well, we had, the library was part of the City of Moscow system till the early 90s, at which time there was a vote and a library district was formed. So now we have the Latah County Free Library District, I think is the official name. And as part of our participation, and it's repeated out in, I think, Potlatch, Troy, all the smaller towns, that they continue to get buildings and locations to operate, but the library operations are done through the district. So our participation is the donation, if you will, of the library building for them to operate out of. But understand that we used to pay for the entire
Books and
operation.
all.
Yeah, everything. Walter?
Just to follow up that, Gary, we don't have a budget item for cash to the library district.
No.
No, they raise a tax, so.
Bill?
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
ahead.
John. I'll let you do it.
well, I make a motion that we approve the proposal for professional services with Costello Com Architects of Lewiston in the amount of $13,530.68, and to have this monies be taken from general fund buildings and grounds, and the amount that was not spent on the roof at the pool that was held out from that.
I'll second.
Okay, John made a motion to approve the proposal by professional services of the Costello Com Architects of Lewiston, Idaho, in the amount of $13,530.68 for assessing the conditions, specifications, and to get this money from the building funds, general fund building funds, 9,800, the balance in the fund capital projects fund, and the remaining portion for what was not used on the pool. Everybody clear? I'll start with Walter.
Do you have to? I'm sorry. Aye.
Aye.
Unenthusiastic, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
It is passed on a 6-0 vote.